Hi, my name's Ian Sinner. I'm the head of customer engagement here at Clevr360. And I'm joined by Simon Duplessis, who's the commercial director of the IT side of our business. And Simon, you run the team of people who provide technical expertise and support when analysing IT and IT security for Clevr360. Thanks for joining me.
Great. Thank you very much, Ian. I think my team basically translate the technical into the business speak and vice versa.
Excellent. We've got an increasing number of our customers taking advantage of our Clevr360 Insight reviews, which is a technical meeting or a review meeting following us plugging our rather effective Clevr360 platform into the customer's Microsoft tenant and allowing it to review and capture data on how licenses are performing and what's happening to the business and go through the threat analysis. And I know some customers have requested that they'd like to have a little better understanding of what this review will entail. So I just wonder if you could give us a 10-minute kind of overview on how your team expect to use the data and what they're bringing to the conversations with the customer.
Of course. Thank you, Ian. And just as you said, it's a large platform. It's got a lot of complexity. There's a lot of functionality we can go through. We'll try to keep it to 10 minutes. If there's anything you'd like more information on, please reach out to the team and we can book an in-depth session with you and go through it in more detail.
Great.
Right, so let me share my screen. Great, I've logged into a demo tenant with data. So if the dates look a little bit old, it's because it's demo data. But I'll go through the functionality and the features that I find the most useful. Under utilization, you get a very good overview of the number of licenses you've got in place across your organization. And if you click on the licensing inventory data, it will give you more detail on the subscriptions, when they expire, and also how many of the licenses are assigned. So a quick overview here, just to see, are there any licenses that are being underutilized that you could perhaps have a cost saving on? And this is particularly useful for licenses that are on a rolling commitment, but business premium, this is a good example. This expires in less than 2 weeks, and I'm only using half of these licenses. So that's a good way to achieve a cost saving. Or perhaps you've accidentally allocated the wrong licenses. It might be that some of your users have got business basic, but they should really be on the premium plan. Then looking at activity and license allocation, redundant licenses. I find redundant licenses very useful. It will highlight licenses that aren't actually actively being used. This is valuable for things like Copilot, for example, or a project license, or even something like Visio. All three of those licenses have quite a high cost, and they're not always utilized fully. A project license, for example, you might have kicked off a project manager used it one-off to produce some documentation. They haven't used it for the last 6 months. Does the user really need that license? You can see an example here of an inactive license that hasn't been used for 45 days. That's maybe acceptable, but if it gets to sort of 90 days, you want to question if that allocation is valid. I'll move on to security and assurance. That's where I get the most value out of it. So let's start off with suspicious activity. Again, have a look here. You can filter the time period. If you want to look at it 60 days or 90 days, I prefer to keep it at 30 days. It gives you a good snapshot of what's happened in the last month. You can see the total events here, and this is compared to the previous 30 days. You can see there's been an uptake in suspicious activity. This highlights the type of events that have occurred and which user account is affected. Now, this is a really good way to see where you're being targeted from. So if all your users are based in the UK, for example, why are we allowing login outside of the UK? You can see all these attempts coming in from China, Pakistan, Nigeria. If users aren't traveling, let's keep it simple and let's improve security by just locking out any global countries. You can set up exceptions. So if you've got users traveling for business or even for holiday where they might need to dip into email, you can allow exceptions for those specific accounts, but always do that on a case-by-case basis rather than blanketing across the organization. And here it's summarized by account. We can see Allison's account is being targeted. And that's usually because that person's email address is publicly available via your website, perhaps if it's a marketing or a sales user or a senior leader. LinkedIn is a good example as well. Those are the accounts you really want to protect. Also, seriously consider if you do need those email addresses on the website. There are scripts and robots that pick up those email addresses by scraping your website and then trying to compromise them. Also using them for marketing emails. You'll notice those accounts will also receive the most junk email. 10 countries, again, just interesting to show logins from all of suspicious activity occurring from all of these different countries.
And it's worth just saying, Simon, isn't it, that as you're taking this through this, our customers normally start by having a review led by one of your team, and they walk through the output from the review and look at the outcomes and the actions that can be taken. But a lot of customers then take it on as a self-service portal, as a portal that they can command on a day-to-day basis, run their own reports and analyze their own data, as well as when they're in a meeting with your guys.
Absolutely. And the data is live and updated in real-time basis. I find it useful to see the change over time. Secure Score is a really good example of that. We take a risk-based approach as part of our IT service that we provide and the roadmap we put together for each client. We highlight all the risks in your organization, and for each risk, we provide you with the impact of that risk to your business and business as usual, and then a couple of options for how we would address that risk. And a good example and the place we would normally start is with the Secure Score. If we look at that, now this gets pulled from the Microsoft 365 tenant. To get this information, if you don't have Clevr360, it takes between 10 and 15 clicks, where you've logged in, you click, I think it's 2 clicks to get to the data here, and you can sort it by score impact. What can we change in the organization, or which risk can we address to make the biggest impact on our security? If I switch this to highest first, I have a note here. You can download an extract to CSV, so you can open this in Excel and manipulate the data. But here you can see a number of key risks that we need to address within the organization. And if you click on the risk, it gives you a bit more detail and next steps on how to address that, with links to the Microsoft articles most relevant to that risk. I can see quite a few here that are relevant. The most critical one for me is legacy authentication, where it's the easiest way for a hacker to bypass multi-factor authentication. If you've got an old printer or scanner in your organization that you send emails from, or that you send scans into your email box, this feature is usually enabled to allow that to bypass multi-factor authentication, but it also means a malicious actor or threat actor can bypass MFA and the majority of your security. So here you can see the score, and you can also see how the score has changed over time. So I've seen a number of reviews where we've done the review for the client, and then we followed up with them 3 months later, and there's been a dramatic improvement in their security.
I think it's one of the biggest feedbacks we get on that first review meeting, isn't it? That with no trouble at all, people are adding perhaps 20% to their secure score. So there's value in just the analysing of the common mistakes, the commonly missed bits, and doing a bit of tuning.
Exactly that. And you can see also how you compare against organizations in similar size, similar sector to yourselves. This is a bit of cleverness is done by Microsoft at the back end, where they've got access to thousands of organizations in different regions, and they compare it to the businesses that are most like yours. And you always want to be above average, right?
Absolutely.
A couple of other risks. External apps with Microsoft Access. Now, by default, users are able to integrate third-party apps with your 365 tenant, and we don't really want users to be able to do that. And it's something your IT team or Cloud Clever can very quickly rectify for you. But what this means is, by default, users are able to integrate applications like Dropbox, LinkedIn, or other cloud file storage solutions with your 365 tenant. It's an easy way for data be extricated from your organization, and that's without your knowledge. It's usually not even malicious. It's just the user is used to using a specific set of tools, and they want to continue using that. But user leaves the organization, their account gets disabled. No one's aware of that data that's shared externally to your organization, and that's ripe for exploit. So here I can see Alison's got Betfred integrated. Shouldn't really need that for business use. Well, we would say you set this up in a way that it requires authentication and approval by your IT team, and then at least there's a gate in place to stop malicious activity. And another useful feature is external Teams access. This is a quick way to see if any company data is shared externally to the organization. There isn't really any way directly to look at this on 365. You can do it through PowerShell scripts. So this just very quickly shows you who's sharing what outside of your business. A good example of this is if you're sharing a proposal directly from SharePoint with a client. 6 months from now, you've forgotten that the client has access to that folder where that file is stored, and you might put some costing sheets into that folder. But we can also set up policies, for example, to automatically disable sharing after a period of time. So you might have shared a proposal and say, well, 6 months after the first time that's been opened, stop the sharing. And that's a good way to automatically cleanse your security posture. Then there's a lot of information around logins, failed logins, which countries those logins are coming from. And this comes back to my point, blocking countries where you know users aren't going to be working from. We can also implement tools that can monitor this on a real-time basis and automatically act on threat activity. So if you want to know more about EDR or ITDR solutions, please reach out to us. MFA status. By default, Microsoft now enables and enforces MFA, multi-factor authentication, across your organization, but you still have the ability to disable that. And some users request that. It should be a hard no, because this is the minimum level of security you have in place, but you can see that data directly here for Clevr360. And when you click on that as well, you can filter that to show admin users only. Now, admin users are the users in your organization that can effectively lock all of your users out of the tenant and also extricate all of your company data. If there's any users in here without MFA, that's a serious security concern that needs to be addressed.
So again, Simon, I think it's fair to say that when you've worked with some of our newer customers, or when we take information to our existing customers, because we use this tool on a day-to-day basis, we've been able to identify stuff that they thought they had under control because they're used to managing their 365 tenant. So even for experienced users, this is proving to be a very useful addition to closing those security loopholes.
It definitely is, and it focuses your effort to get this data through Microsoft 365 directly. Again, it's a number of clicks, it's all over the place, and it's hard to form a pattern that you can go through on a weekly basis, whereas Clevr360 brings all of that data together in one dashboard. So you can see all of the security information I've gone through so far. It's all in this one pane of glass. Another couple of quick ones that I'd like to quickly go through. Mailbox with auto forwarding rule. This is another good example, especially if you've got large sales teams. Someone leaves the organization, they set up a forwarder to a personal email address. You've locked them out of your system, you've changed the password, but you might not be aware that they're forwarding their email out to a Gmail email address. And again, this might not be malicious. It might be that they've set the rule up to forward personal emails that have been sent to their work email to a personal address. But it's good practice to make sure that these rules can't be set up, because this is one of the easiest way for a threat actor to get inside information on your organization. And then lastly, right here at the bottom, outdated browsers and operating systems. If you're looking at achieving Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus accreditation, or your ISO 27001 accredited, these should all be 0, because this highlights any browsers that haven't been updated in your organization, or any mobile devices with outdated operating systems. Now, we've got a third-party patching solution that can help address these browsers for you, and also other third-party applications. And then on the outdated OS side, we can implement an MDM, a mobile device management solution, something like Intune, that can help you manage both your corporate and the personal devices that have got access to your company data, to ensure that it remains safe and secure.
So Simon, look, thanks for going through. And as you said, there's a lot in here. There's a lot more that you guys talk to the customers about and work through over a longer period of time. But for anybody who's watching this and they're thinking about security, they're thinking about optimizing the use of their licensing structures, and they want some time back in their day from going digging around different portals to try and find it, do reach out to us. Very keen to at least look once at the fences and help you to make yourself as secure as possible. Simon and his team will take the time to work through it with you. It's a simple setup process, and the results are speaking for themselves in terms of the higher levels of security and prudent use of licenses that our customers are getting. So, Simon, thank you for your time, and look forward to speaking to you all again.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, everyone.